Special message. Thank you. It's time now for our special message. Reverend Phyllis, have you found it yet?
Yes, have you found it yet? Yes, I found my unmute button quite quickly. Thank you. So I've just finished reading a book. I found it very difficult, really, to get into, but the last few pages I couldn't wait to finish. It was Voss by Patrick White, a book that was recommended to me by my eldest son, who lives in your beautiful country, Melbourne. And within the first chapter, I read this, spoken by the main character, Voss. He said, "Every man has a genius, though it's not always discoverable, least of all when choked by the trivialities of daily existence." I thought, wow, that's profound. So I looked up the word genius, and in Wikipedia it says a genius is a person who displays exceptional intellectual ability, creative productivity, universality in genres, or originality, typically to a degree that is associated with the achievement of new discoveries or advancements in a domain of knowledge. So have you found that genius in you yet? In his book, Discover the Power Within You, Eric Butterworth talks about an eternal quest that human nature has been on forever. So what is he talking about? Could it be that he's talking about finding that genius within? What does he tell us about us that it is that the people are looking for? He calls it the Holy Grail. So what is the Holy Grail? Well, in many traditional Christian religions, it is an important symbol, which is not just a religious artifact, but an object of magical properties. To some, it is believed to be the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper. To others, it represents God, pardon me, and the search for God. And to others, it is a metaphor for something special and important. The meaning of the Holy Grail that I like best out of all those I've found is that it symbolizes spiritual searching and journeys of discovery. I think we have all had a hankering for something during our lifetime. Of course, if I asked each one of you that's with us today, you would all have something different to share. Of course, that quest for a way of life, a particular job, a special relationship, a position in a company may change as we grow in maturity. But because we are joining together as Unity Truth students today, I'm going to focus my talk on the search for a deeper relationship with the divine, the Spirit, God, Lord, or whatever word you prefer to use when referring to that one presence, one power that is everywhere present. As I said earlier, there may be other areas in our lives in which we have a Holy Grail as we aspire to achieve. Of course, I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself, and so that's where I'm going to speak from. The quest for my Holy Grail was for answers to questions that I had been afraid to ask for many, many, many years. I was always searching for answers about what I heard in the Sunday school classes I attended and what I understood was written in the Bible. In my young mind, the two did not match. I heard that I simply had to believe what I was told and not ask questions. My search for answers continued without the satisfaction of answers, and eventually the search was discontinued for many years until I moved to Perth, where I searched out the nearest Uniting Church and started to attend. Now, I had been brought up in the Methodist Church, so Uniting Church was the automatic place for me to go. Did I find the answers? Well, no. I met with wonderful people, listened to beautiful music, although the words often left me wondering. Listened to, as I said, beautiful music and hymns, but the messages that I heard never inspired me, because it was still the old stuff telling me that I was a bit of a sinner. Well, I knew that I made mistakes. But again, what I heard didn't match what I understood had been the teachings of Jesus. What was I searching for? I wanted answers to my eternal quest that would explain the many examples of what I would call contradictions that I often heard at the traditional church or Sunday school that I attended as a child, and still was hearing in the church that I started to attending when I went to Perth. I often questioned my own understanding and even my intelligence, and never knew quite how to put those questions into words that would not invoke the same old reply, just accept and believe. Well, talking to my class in the class yesterday, which is based on Eric's work, of course, and Emily Katie's work, I said, I needed an understanding of all of this, and I wasn't getting that from what I was hearing. I knew I had found the answers, however, when I first was guided to the Unity Centre in Perth, where the minister, Alan Lee, handed me my Holy Grail. He didn't realise that, but that's exactly how I feel now. He explained to me that Unity looks at the teachings of Jesus rather than the life of Jesus. He also explained, and this was a real aha experience for me, when Alan said that Unity teaches that Jesus was not the exception, but the example. Wow. Jesus was not the exception, but the example. Alan told me that Unity understood that Jesus taught that we are all divine and that we too can do the things that he did if we had faith. Wow, that was a revelation to me, and it really resonated to me. So I was thrilled at hearing what Alan had to say, and I went home with a copy of Emily Katie's book under my arm. Pardon me. Let me go back there. I went home with a copy of Emily Katie's book under my arm, and waiting for a correspondence from Unity in Brisbane, because while I was with Alan, he had spoken to Midge Berkman and said, asked if I could be part of the correspondence course, which they did run back then. Of course, unfortunately, they have been discontinued. And so I went home to read the book and wait for the first lesson of classes that Midge was to send me. What a source of relief it was to know that I had finally found my Holy Grail and answers to some of my questions. That started my journey, the ups and the downs along the way, and some wonderful experiences during those 30 years since I first was guided to Unity. Have I found it yet? Well, yes, I have. And yet I still slip up now and then. So why is this so? If I have the answers, why is my life not always hunky-dory? Why do I still sometimes feel less than? Why do I sometimes feel abandoned? When these feelings invade my space, I know full well that I am out of the flow, as Eric would say, and need to refocus my thoughts within and reconnect to my spiritual self. rather than be caught up in the sense of the human self. What I understand now is, as Emily Cady wrote, we have come to a place where our search for truth must no longer be for rewards. It must no longer be for our seeking a creed to follow, but it must be our living a life. Yes, I had come to a time in my life that I was looking for a better way of life, and I found it when I found unity. It is a way of life. A journey of inquiry and self-discovery and self-knowledge is a fascinating one indeed. Well, I have found it so on my journey. When I first spoke to Alan Lee and heard about the basic unity teachings, I was fully open and receptive to embracing them head on. Along the path, there have been ideas presented that I feel may not be quite ready to accept, but I am open to exploring with the possibility of them becoming part of my accepted beliefs. These ideas are what I have heard Paul Hasselbeck suggest are in the realm of possibility. Some of the questions I had as a child about what I heard in Sunday school class were, it seems to me, in that realm of possibility, but I wasn't getting any answers, so they couldn't come into my world of belief fully. I always felt there was something amiss in the teachings that I was hearing at Sunday school and what I understood were Jesus' teachings, and even some of the teachings of the Hebrew scriptures tell us more of what Jesus was speaking about. I believe the important part of our journey is to be open-minded and open-hearted, to listen without judgment to other people's perspectives on the wide spectrum of ideas that can affect our way of living a peaceful, fulfilling life. The Unity 5 basic principles offer a wonderful way of living when we embrace the first, and that humans are an expression of that one presence and one power. Then practice 3 and 4, which tell us that through prayer and meditation, we connect with the divine and that our thoughts create our world. And of course, number 5 tells us that it's no good just learning and knowing these 4 previous ones, we must live them. Easy to achieve? Not always. Well, it hasn't been for me. For I find myself, when I get caught up in that ancient, awful aspect that we often get caught up in when talking to others, that I can also contribute to that ancient, awful dialogue. And when I look back and see that I have done that, I know that I'm part of the problem still and not part of the solution. And I have to change the way I think and thus the way I speak. For me, it is interesting to note that Jesus is not the only one who has walked upon this earth to share these basic truths. As Eric tells us, there are many, many monuments around the world in honour of other truth teachers. And unfortunately, those who listened have embarked on what I would call idolatry or idol worship of the teacher, rather than embracing the teachings in order to change their lives. Too often the search is for someone to tell us exactly what to do, or rather to do it for us, rather than take responsibility for our own lives and put into practice the wisdom of teachings that we are offered. I love what Charles Fillmore is said to have encouraged people to do, and that is to use that which unity offers, practice it, and prove for yourself that it works. And that's what I have found over the years. Using the teachings really works. It makes a whole lot of difference in my life. And yes, I slip up now and again because I am, although fully divine, I'm also fully human. And it's that human self that can sometimes get caught up in the ancient awfuls. So as I was considering my talk for today, I pondered the question, did Jesus start out for an answer to an internal question he was not getting satisfactory answers to from the rabbis? Well, he had a wonderful understanding of the Hebrew scriptures, and yes, there is evidence in there that a lot of the writers did know about the divinity of humankind, but it wasn't something that was shared very well throughout the Hebrew scriptures that I could understand. And what I find is that it's very important, very interesting that he did find answers, but where did he get those answers from? Well, we don't really know, because we really don't know very much about his life, except what was written many years later. It seems that Jesus never wrote down anything. However, he was very willing to share the knowledge that he had discovered to all those who were willing to listen and really hear his words, and notice his very open, inclusive way of life, which is how he conveyed the truths he had discovered. We understand that he frequently took himself apart and turned within to make conscious contact with the divine through prayer and meditation. Was this the only way he discovered the truth that he taught? Well, we don't know. Really, we do not know. We can only surmise. And isn't it interesting what Rath shared with us this morning, that our native First people also go into that silence. What we read about the Christian scriptures and about Jesus' teachings are in many ways biographical, not autobiographical. His teachings were written down years after the crucifixion by others, and I suspect some of them had never ever met or listened to Jesus. However, they had grasped the teachings from others and were willing to share them. No doubt they found that they worked in their lives. So was Jesus like us on the eternal quest that Eric Butterworth talks about, that many over the ages have been on? Well, Jesus may have been on a quest, but it certainly wasn't for the Holy Grail, because that only came into existence, as far as we know, well after he was crucified. There have been many quests for the Holy Grail, or the platter that Jesus used at the Last Supper. And as I read on Mr. Google, there are alleged to be roughly 200 grail cups in various locations around the world. However, a search for the Holy Grail could perhaps be considered the quest on which Jesus embarked. It appears to me that from a very early age, he eagerly sought to have a very close relationship with God, and in so doing, discovered the divine within, and also concluded from his vast knowledge of the Hebrew scriptures that every human was divine, and possibly teachers. He also possibly heard that from teachers from other philosophies. Again, I say, we don't really know. Jesus used the power of the word to convey his knowledge, and also from using that which he taught. As we learn to use the power of the word, we discover that we no longer have to beg for that which we think we need and that which satisfies our longings. We receive not by begging and crying, but by acknowledging and realizing, as Jesus Christ did, our oneness with the Father. And I've just quoted some words from Myrtle Fillmore. In other words, to find that which we are searching, be it a certain position in a company, a relationship, or a way of living that is fulfilling and satisfying, we must learn to use our words appropriately. We need to get our thoughts and thinking under our control, and then that affects the way we speak and it will affect the way we live. So we really need to get our thinking and feelings under our own control. That's the dominion that is talked about in the Old and Hebrew scriptures. If you have not found your Holy Grail yet, focus on the end result that you are seeking. Keeping your mind positive and use the unity tools of denials and affirmations. When you become aware of a thought that is not in alignment with that which you desire, deny it has any power over you, and then affirm that which you seek is now expressing in and through your life. Yesterday, we looked at affirmative prayer, and we learned that it is very, very important to use affirmations in the present tense and use I statements. Also take time to turn within to that wellspring of wisdom that will guide and comfort you, offering up new understanding and even knowledge you are unaware you had within you. Your life is filled with endless possibilities, and the genius that is your unique expression is waiting to be released. Your Holy Grail awaits you. Thank
Gee,
you.
that is fantastic. Would you thank Reverend Phyllis? We needed to hear that. The basic, simple truth. And there it is. Thank you very much for that. And we look forward to having a look at it during the week at our own leisure on the website. So give Phyllis another round of applause. That was just worth waiting for. Thank you. Well, Phyllis, we've got a song to follow that, which I think works beautifully.